let's take a look at Castlevania IV. Alright, look, I love Castlevania. No, really, I do. It's my favorite series on the original NES. I love its dark, spooky aesthetic, the music is beyond greatness, the gameplay, at least for its time, was beyond stellar, and the eternal struggle between the Belmont family and Count Dracula is something I really enjoy. That being said, the games can piss me the fuck off really quickly. But that doesn't stop me from loving them, so obviously the good outweighs the bad, right? Well, let's take a look and find out. Super Castlevania IV was developed by everyone's favorite fallen angel, Konami, and was released on Halloween 1991 in Japan and came to the States December 4th, 1991. Released for the mighty Super Nintendo, it was a remake of the first Castlevania game for the NES, and damn, the game looks great, especially when compared to the original trilogy. Sprites are much more detailed and larger in size, and backgrounds are filled to the brim with details. There's plenty of parallax scrolling, adding a ton of depth to the levels visually, and even a few Mode 7 effects thrown in, like this tube room that rotates and... ugh. It's a neat effect and all, but man, looking at that makes me sick. The shift to the next generation definitely shows in the visual department, but what about the sound? I don't think it's a stretch to say that people already know that Castlevania has phenomenal music, and Castlevania IV is no exception to that fact. There's plenty of high-energy tracks like Simon's Theme, Bloody Tears, and Vampire Killer, but the more atmospheric tracks can really set the creepy vibe the series is known for. The music will keep your mood shifting as you play, whether the game wants you to feel cautious about what's lying just ahead, or confident on your quest to defeat the Prince of Darkness. Our hero, Simon Belmont, however, shows no fear in the face of evil as he struts his way through Transylvania and the corridors of Dracula's castle. Equipped with the oh-so-accurately named whip, the Vampire Killer, which contrary to the original games, you can now whip in multiple directions, which makes taking down enemies much easier, and you can even hold the attack button to dangle the whip in any direction you want. It looks pretty silly, but it comes in handy, trust me. Simon can even attach his whip to specific hooks that let him swing across gaps, although the control can be a bit finicky. Simon isn't just equipped with the whip though, he also has access to a variety of sub-weapons you can activate by tapping the R trigger. You've got the dagger, which you should never use, the axe, which I only ever used if I already had the worthless dagger or nothing at all, the boomerang and the firebomb, originally known as the Holy Cross and Holy Water until Nintendo gave them the big N-O on religious references, and finally the stopwatch. The boomerang and stopwatch being my favorites because the boomerang can really destroy a lot of the bosses, and the stopwatch makes traversing levels easier since it stops all enemies in place. All of the sub-weapons are powered by hearts. You can find hearts by breaking candles or defeating enemies. Now you're probably thinking, if hearts don't heal me, what does? You regain health by eating pork chops found on the wall. What? Yes, Simon sees no issue eating a piece of meat out of a dusty castle wall. But it's to your benefit to look for these secrets. There's more than just meat hidden in the castle walls. There's also a few other items that will pop up every now and then, like the invisibility potion and a rosary that destroys every enemy on screen, as well as a double and triple shot that will allow you to throw your sub-weapons up to 3 times at once. Level designs can range from a simple stroll from one side of the level to the other with minimal resistance to full-on schizophrenic platform placement. Stairs have always been a staple in the Castlevania series, and luckily, due to improvements in Simon's control, they're thankfully much less frustrating to traverse. The level themes are not exactly original. There's the evil forest, the caverns, the flooded ruins, the swamp, and finally Dracula's castle. While the level themes may not be anything new, they all look great except for maybe the caverns. It's just a bunch of dirt with a dirt background, not exactly something I enjoy seeing. Plus it has the mud mint. Now they're not exactly dangerous unless you're Super Nintendo's frame rate. If you're not dying from the traps, bottomless pits, or other obstacles, then it will most likely be from the classic horror and history-inspired enemies and bosses. Things like bats, zombies, and skeletons.
Oh my!
Other staples of the classic horror genre. None of them are too challenging to take out though, thanks to Simon's superior control and handling, but things like fire eyes and Medusa heads always piss me off. Their hitboxes are pretty tiny and they love to fly right between my whiplashes. Not to mention they always seem to be placed in areas with bottomless pits. Boss battles are back, featuring all the bosses from the original game, but a lot of new ones as well. Stages often have more than one, and they can be pretty intimidating and challenging. However, that challenge is not consistent at all. Bosses like Medusa, Frankenstein's monster, and the Zap Bat are total jokes, while Coronat, the Mummy, and Slogra can fuck right off! It's kind of jarring to play a challenging stage just to be greeted with a super easy boss fight, although in the moment you might just be relieved to not have to play a stage over again after losing to a boss. After completing all 11 levels, you reach the final boss gauntlet. You have to defeat Slogra, who I already mentioned is a pain in the ass, Gavin, I'm gonna call him Gavin, and death itself. Your best bet for defeating Slogra is the crouch strategy, and then just hoping he doesn't kill you when he starts diving at you with his giant bird beak, but enough luck and you'll take him down. Gavin flies around the room shooting fireballs, but he's really not much of a challenge. Smack him when you can and avoid taking fireballs to the face and he'll go down before you know it. Death would be a lot more intimidating and challenging if there wasn't a simple strategy that I dare say is almost as cheap as the one for defeating your shadow in Zelda 2. Just crouch in the corner, hold your whip limp, and smack him in the ass when he hovers above you. After that, it's on to Dracula, and don't worry if you lost all your health and items while fighting the last 3 bosses, because there's a secret power-up stash on an invisible path underneath Dracula's staircase. The fight with Dracula can be a bit intimidating, especially considering his large size and multiple attacks that can take up plenty of the screen. Compared to the rest of the bosses, Dracula can be a real tough son of a bitch, but when you compare him to other Castlevania Dracula fights, it's one of the easier fights. Hell, he doesn't even have a second form. The part that really messed up though was his final desperation attacks where he teleports around the room and summons lightning strikes around. These leave little time to reposition yourself and caused me to start the fight over plenty of times. However, with enough perseverance and shouting, you will eventually beat Count Dracula. The morning rises on Transylvania and the sun shines in and destroys Dracula once and for all. Just kidding, this series has a few more generations to go before Konami kills it and then digs it up to violate its corpse. Super Castlevania IV did a terrific job of bringing the Castlevania series to the 4th generation of consoles, and it did it with style. The game's presentation is without a doubt its best quality, and it brought terrific controls and gameplay with it too. There's a reason why this game was included in the Super Nintendo Mini, and it's because it's one of the best games for the console, and as far as classic Castlevania goes, it's my favorite.